Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for registering for the Manage Engine webinar and most importantly, taking time off your day and joining me for today's session. My name is Megha and I'm from the marketing team here at Manage Engine. I hope all of you are doing well and keeping safe. So today's session is, as the title says, it's going to be about ADManager Plus in 2021, meaning we're going to look at the features or the updates that we have added to the solution this year. So I have not added every enhancement or update, every single update that we have introduced to the solution in this year for the agenda, because I've only touched upon the most important ones or the highlights of the features that were introduced in the solution. But I will also be sharing a link to the page where we have a release notes. So that way you can take a look. And if you're using one of the earlier versions of ADManager Plus, then this will give you the motivation to upgrade to the latest version and also take a look at all the features that are available through the release notes. All right, so I understand that there are some attendees with us today who are currently using ADManager Plus. I also understand that we have attendees who are evaluating the solution and also attendees who do not know what ADManager Plus is about. So bearing that in mind, I'll talk a little bit about the solution. So please pardon me, existing users of ADManager Plus. This is just for our users who are, or attendees who have joined us today, for whom ADManager Plus is completely unfamiliar. So I will not go in depth, just a quick overview or introduction to the solution, and then we'll move on to the points or the features that we have added in this particular year. So to start off with, predominantly, if I can say what ADManager Plus is, in a nutshell, it is an active directory management and a reporting solution. But you can also see that I have mentioned some other platforms here like Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, Exchange, Skype for Business, and also Google Workspace. As in, we also support, or ADManager Plus also support management and reports in these platforms besides AD, right? So when I show you the solution, you'll understand how this works. It's quite simple. You have everything related to these platforms along with AD in one console. You don't have to toggle between multiple windows, like you don't have to access the admin center to get the data you want. You don't have to go to the Exchange Management Console to provision mailboxes for a user or change the properties of the mailbox, or similarly for these other platforms. The idea is you can access all of these different settings and all the configuration from one single console, and you can provision the accounts in all these platforms in one go, right? So not just provisioning, but you can perform management actions, any modifications that are required during the course of the employee's lifetime or the life cycle in the organization, and also deprovision the accounts when an employee or a set of employees leave the organization. Right, so moving on to the reports. So there is an extensive report library where there are more than 200 reports at this point, and we keep adding reports in different categories, so it's quite easy to access any information that you want. And the best part is you don't have to write any line of code or a script to get the data you want. Those reports are readily available. You just have to click the report that you need and get the data that you want. And these reports can also be scheduled to be sent to multiple email addresses, to an IT administrator email address, or multiple members of the IT team. And these reports can also be exported in multiple formats, like CSV, HTML, Excel, PDF, and so on, right? So these are the two aspects which are related to management and reporting. Now, the third one over here, or the fourth point over here, is automation. So in automation, what you can do is you can automate your regular day-to-day routines, like for instance, your reset password, unlock users. You can do it in bulk for a set of users. You can execute these actions at a predetermined date and time. And your critical actions like user provisioning, user deprovisioning, stale account cleanup, for instance, all of these can be automated as well. So you can take this one step further by integrating with HRMS solutions. So that way, the two tools can communicate, and whatever details or new data entry that is entered by the HR can be detected in ADManager Plus, and the accounts can be provisioned at the same time in Active Directory and other platform in one go, right? So that is automation, and you do a lot more actions. There are pre-built routines that are available. You can just click on the action that you want and perform user provisioning, deprovisioning, and reset password. Just some examples. I'm not talking about all the features that are available. There's a lot more. You can always check out the free trial version of the solution to explore the options that it has. The next point is about delegation. So delegation is how you can delegate actions to other users, technicians, or even non-admin users like an HR to perform certain actions. Now, the difference between the built-in delegation control method is this and ADManager Plus is that it's easy to delegate permissions very granularly. You can choose what they can access, what they cannot access, what they can view, what they cannot do, what they can do, what they cannot do. So everything is very specific. You can narrow it down to even attribute level changes, right? So if you want an HR to create users and you're giving him privilege to create users using ADManager Plus, you can even restrict the attributes that he can access and enter those details. For instance, the user's unique details like first name, last name, contact information, the team that he's reporting to, the manager, and so on can be made visible for the HR, but rest of the attributes like the M365 or Exchange, all of that can be hidden from the HR, which is not relevant for him or her. So that way you can tailor or customize your layout of this delegation permissions. And lastly, if you're not comfortable with delegation or instead you want the employee or any user in your organization to raise a request for a particular permission, could be an access to a group or maybe a file server, and that request gets sent to a set of stakeholders, maybe the employee's manager or the department head. Based on the severity of the request or the nature of the request, you can add or remove people that you want to review that request, and then only if it's reviewed by all these people or it's approved by everyone, then it gets sent to the IT administrator for execution. So that's a great way to control any unauthorized changes that could happen when a request is raised, and then sometimes without a context, a user or a request is granted by the IT administrator, but sometimes the request can be of malicious nature and it can do a great deal of damage. So that way, having people reviewing it, could be a manager or could be someone else in the team, take a look at it before granting those permissions is a great way to avoid any unauthorized changes. So that's a very, very quick introduction to ADManager Plus. Of course, I haven't touched upon every single feature that is available in the solution. What I would recommend is, if you're curious about ADManager Plus, you can always try the 30-day fully functional free trial that's available. You can download it from our website. I'll also share the links in a while. And during the session, if you have any questions, please do feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A panel, right? So I'll usually answer the questions live, so it'll benefit our other attendees as well. So moving on, I'll start right away with the integrations that we offer. So these are, I have listed the features or the enhancements that have been added to the product in the year 2021. So as I said, these are doesn't cover all the features. There are a lot of other enhancements, but I have picked the ones that I feel are the most important and are very relevant for this session. So let me start off with the first one, which is integrations. So as you can see, I have mentioned two solutions over here, the help desk solutions, ServiceDesk Plus Cloud. So ServiceDesk Plus, if some of you are not aware, is our managed engine solution. Now, and up until very recently, we supported the integration with on-premise version, but now we also support integrations with the cloud version as well. So we've extended that to the cloud platform, and Jira is another tool that we now support integrations with. So if you're already using ADManager Plus, the process is quite similar to that of the rest of the other tools that you integrate with. You just have to configure them in the admin settings, Once it's done, the technician can log into the ITSM console and perform IAM actions right from this console without them accessing ADManager Plus or AD to perform these actions. So some of the routine actions that he can or the technician can do is user creation, user deletion, enabling accounts, disabling accounts, unlocking user accounts, and also finally resetting passwords. So these are some of the AD actions, AD management actions that the technician can do from these tools. Anyway, let me also take you to the application. I have a test setup of ADManager Plus over here. Now, if you do have, if you're currently evaluating the solution, or if you have a setup of ADManager Plus that you're already using, I would recommend you to open it so we can just try these actions along with me. So that might be helpful if you're using one of the earlier versions and you're not sure where to find the feature that I'm talking about. So the first one that you can see is the admin settings over here. I'm directly jumping into the admin settings because I don't want to spend a lot of time. You can see there are a lot of other tabs here. Just like the title suggests, they have the management actions, the reports, an exclusive tab for M365 reports and management, a delegation, workflow, wherein a user can raise a request and it gets sent through the right set of people, and the automation, right? So this is just quickly taking you to the dashboard of the application if you're not using the solution. The first thing that you can see is the status of your objects in your domain. You can have this configured. You can have additional dashboards which are customizable. So you can have multiple dashboards giving the information that you want. And this is the default view. So taking you back to the administrative settings on the LHS, there's a section for integrations. So the first section over here is ITSM. So there's ServiceDesk Plus on-prem version, ServiceNow, Zendesk, AD Self-Service Plus is our password management solution, managed engine solution. PAM 360 is also our managed engine solution. And then now we have the ServiceDesk Plus Cloud and Jira. So these are the two solutions that we offer integration right now with. So these are the two new additions to this. The configuration is pretty simple. You enter the server details and port number, and then the two tools. Similarly, you do something similar in the ITSM solution as well, and then these two tools can communicate with each other, right? So that is integration with help desk. That's the latest update. And the second one is something that we have added to enhance the security, or rather enable the users to improve or use the security features that are added to the solution already. So it's just more or less like an encouragement to do so, and also check how secure your installation of ADManager Plus is. Quickly pausing here to look at the question that I have got from Maxine. Are there any plans to add integrations for Ring Central or Mitel phone applications to automate phone assignments? This is something I'm not aware of at this point, Maxine, but what I'll do is I'll in fact pass this on to our technical team. Most of these sessions, if I get suggestions or if I get any feedback about the product enhancements or features, I usually pass it on to our technical team, and they evaluate and check for feasibility, and then they go ahead and implement it if it works out. So usually if we have a large number of requests for a certain application, a third-party application, our team does, they do work on it, and then they bring it to the solution. So thank you so much for that, Maxine. I will pass this on to my team. But to answer to your question, I'm not aware of this at this point. And it's right now not in the works as far as I know, but this information will be shared to the concerned team. Thank you. All right, so as I was saying, product security score. Again, I'll quickly show you where that is available in the solution. The same admin settings over here, general settings, connection, security hardening. So this is the tab that we have this product security score. So as you can see here, I have not enabled any of these settings over here, which is why my current installation of ADManager Plus, the security, it's at 0%, right? So the idea is you have to configure them, you have to enable them, whatever that needs to be done, and respectively all the percentage increases according to what you're doing. And once you've configured all of them, this should hit 100%. So just to list some of them. So this is just to enable HTTPS, change the default admin password, enforce two-factor authentication, moving from older versions of TLS. So we support 1.0, 1. The versions that the older versions are removed, and also enable LDAP SSL and capture. And also you can block a certain number of invalid or success failed login attempts from certain technicians, right? You might have granted access to a technician, and if you this technician is trying to log into the application maybe for a certain number of times, and you can set the permissible limit. So all of this can be enabled here. So this was all these features were available. It's just that it was not under one console like this. So let's say if you're using one of the earlier versions, you might not see it like how you're seeing it right now. But now we just added everything. So it's in the connection settings, and you have a separate tab for all of this. And this will increase, and what we want is we want every user who's using the solution to configure all these. So your score is 100%, right? So this is something that we have added very recently just to enforce security settings for your installation of ADManager Plus. Microsoft 365 management and reporting. This is something, this particular tab that we have for exclusively for M365 is a work in progress, because we always keep updating new features and enhancements and updates to our existing features that we have with respect to these capabilities, both in reports as well as for management, because we want to make, the idea is you as a user do not use the admin center. Instead, you just use this because this console has everything that you need to manage your user properties. So just having two different tools or two platforms can be cumbersome for you. So we try to bring everything possible and maybe more than what the admin center offers in one in one console. So that's the idea. So this is something that we keep adding, we keep working on. The latest update with respect to M365 is we've included templates for group creation. Now, if you're already using ADManager Plus, you know how our templates work. So let me quickly give an example of how our templates work to our non-users who are here today. Now, a template is available in user creation and also in other object creation. You can see that over here, creation templates and modification template for users and for other objects as well. Now, in template, or what a template does is you can create a layout or a framework, and you can have all the attributes filled in beforehand. So let's say if you belong to the sales team and there are users who are going to join the sales department, you know that there are certain attributes that are going to be common for the sales department employees, right? Their manager that they're reporting to, the groups that they are part of, maybe their their office location. So they're the common attributes that are there for every employee, right? So those attributes or certain permission settings for these sales employees can be saved. So every time you're creating an account for the sales department employee, you don't have to enter these common details every single time. Instead, you have them configured in a template. And every time you're creating user, whether it's a single user or multiple users, you just click on the template, sales department template, and all those attributes will get auto-populated here. So that way you can save a lot of time when you're creating user accounts for employees, and also in modification, you can create templates for modification too. And that way you can also avoid any data entry errors that could come in when you are entering details one by one. So that's what a template does. That's it's like a framework or a reference or a checklist that you prepare well in advance, so you can use it every time when you're creating objects. So the group creation template for M365 also works in a similar manner. So there are options for you to create groups, both single as well as bulk. M365 distribution or mail enabled security group and dynamic distribution group goes, it's the same for bulk groups as well, the same categories. Now the template can also be created this way for this. So you can define a template name for an M365 group. Besides these unique attributes, you can fill in the rest of the permission settings, the groups that they are part of, or the group members, and then the owner of that group, and also your exchange properties can be added over here. And you can also add different custom templates, custom attributes that are already not here. Maybe if you want to add them, you can add them here, assign the value also, and then save this template. So this template can be invoked or can be reused any number of times. And also there is no limit to the number of templates you can create. So that way your group creation gets a lot more easier, because you already have a template which you just have to fill in the unique attribute values, and then rest of it gets filled. So that is the update to with respect to M365, which is creating groups, and you can use them both for single as well as bulk group creation. Now, the fourth point is the file server access permissions. So we do support it, access permission settings, management, as well as reports for Windows file server. Now we have extended the permission settings for these platforms as well, Isilon, NetApp, and CSV. So all you have to do is step one is to configure these file servers in ADManager Plus, right? So once that is done, then you can go ahead and modify your permission settings and also get your data in the form of reports. So going back to management, there is a section on the LHS called file server management. This is the configuration. You would need to do this as a step one. Once it's been configured, then you can go ahead and modify the permission settings, both single as well as bulk. Right? Similarly, there are reports over here for NTFS. So you can just click on that for getting the information that you want as well. I have a question from Manish. Can you give a practical example for creating users in M365? Unfortunately, the tenant account is the one that I'm using is a test setup, Manish, but I can show you where you can do so. So there are two ways to go about this. I might not be able to actually create the user because I'm using a test setup, but let me show you where you can do so. Pardon. So in the user creation, you can see there is an option to check this, which is Active Directory as well as M365. That way you can enter all the details. You can see there's an Exchange tab here where you can configure the Exchange properties, the Skype or link, and MS Teams. So that way you can just enter the details over here and then click on create. This is one way to do it. Let's say if you already have an existing AD account, an AD user account, and you want to create an M365 account for this Active Directory user, for this existing Active Directory user account, then you can do that too, right? So in M365, there is a section called management. And under management, you have user management, and then below that, you have create M365 accounts for AD users. So this is, you can use this option too if you're creating an if you're creating a Microsoft 365 account for an existing AD user. You just have to select the user and then set the properties and then go ahead and click on create. That's it. But if you want to do it simultaneously, which is what I was talking about over here, which is one-step integrated user provisioning in all these platforms, then you can go ahead and then use this option, or you can click on create bulk users. Either way, you can create all of that, all of the user account in all of these platforms in one single go. So I hope I answered the question. So if you can either create M365 account for an existing user, you can do it fresh or from the beginning for AD as well as for M365 from this section. All right. Yeah, so as I was saying, you can also access the file server permissions in the NTFS reports over here. You can just click on the report that you want, get the access settings for the selected computer or the folder, and that these reports can also be exported and scheduled. You have the option to schedule the report as well. You can have them sent to your inbox or more than one email address if you want. The last point is about OU delegation. So you can delegate different roles to different users. Now you can also choose which OU this user can have access to, right? So let's say you have delegated a user to perform user creation. Here now you can restrict how is this user creation going to work? Can the technician create objects, user objects in all the OUs or only in selected OUs? So that way you can restrict the OUs that they can have permission to perform any action or view any report. All of that can be delegated, or you can set that permission over here. So in delegation on the LHS, you can see help desk roles. So roles are just your set of actions that they can do, or what they cannot do is defined in a role, right? So you can just click on create a new role. You can choose the actions that they can do, what they can perform, what they can view, and so on. So that's what the role is. A role can have multiple actions. So you can maybe create single user, define the attributes that they can edit or enter, right? So that can be set here. The reports that they can view, the M365 actions that they can perform, all of it can be defined in a role. And finally, you can have once you've delegated a role or once you've created a role, the next thing is to assign it to a technician. So you can click on add new technician over here. So that will take you to the section where you can choose the domain that they will have access to. The technician can be set here. So technician can be a user or a group or users or groups, and the role that you define can be linked over here. And more than one role can also be assigned to a technician. And you can also select the OUs they'll have permission to have access to. So you can choose the OU over here. You can select the roles over here. And if you're assigning user creation role to another technician, maybe an HR, you can also create templates for this HRs, right? So that template can have just the basic attributes and nothing too complex. And the file server, if you've delegated file server permissions, what file servers they have access to, the groups that they can see, what can be hidden from them, and also the M365 tenant accounts and also the licenses. So all of this can be, you can restrict what they can see, what they cannot see. And this is not it if you're not comfortable. Also, if you want to keep track of the actions that these technicians are doing, then these audit reports will come in handy. So the reports can also be scheduled, and you can also maintain an archive of all the actions that your technicians are doing. And it'll help you, especially when it comes to your audit or compliance related audit. So that is delegation. I just want to talk about a couple of other highlights as a part of this session. Just want to bring to your attention, if you're not aware of it, is integration with the HRMS solution. So as of now, we support integration with 4 solutions: Alti Pro, Bamboo HR, Zoho People, and Workday. And the HRMS databases that we support integrate with are MS SQL and Oracle databases. So just like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the session, once the integration is enabled, then as and when the HR enters the details of new hires or new employees in the portal, those details will be fetched over here and the accounts will be created. And let's say if a user or an employee is modified, for instance, he's promoted or he's moved to another department or a different location, the changes that the HR will update or will do in the HRMS portal with respect to these changes, then that can also be reflected in AD, and the corresponding attribute values can be updated. Similarly, when an employee leaves the organization, then those attributes can also be, then those user accounts can also be deprovisioned, and you can completely customize how the deprovisioning works based on your organization's policy. And the second point is AD backup and recovery. Now, some of you might be aware of a solution in the management suite called as AD Recovery Manager Plus. So Recovery Manager Plus is a different solution. It also will also support with Exchange and M365 along with AD, but the AD Manager Plus backup component supports only AD backup, right? AD objects, so OUs, your user objects, your computers, and all of that can be backed up. You can create full backups on a monthly basis. You can have incremental backups on a daily basis. You can restore any objects if you want to um, or let's say if you have deleted any user object, or if you have accidentally made a change that you want to restore, then all of that can be done from the restore feature, right? So the simple restore will allow you to restore all the objects intact from the state, from the backup that you want to. The granular restore will allow you to pick and choose the versions, pick and choose the attribute level version that you want to restore from. And that way you can go ahead a couple of versions earlier, choose the attribute that you want to restore, and so on. So that's granular restore. Now, just to add here, the backup component comes as part of a different license. It's called the backup and recovery add-on. It only if you apply that license, you'll be able to enable your domains for backup. So I'll share the links for the store as well. So if you have any questions on that, hopefully that will give you some answers, or you can always get in touch with our support team for that. And just to add on to this, we've added recently support for Microsoft Teams as well. So a lot of us have moved to Teams, so we support provisioning in Teams as well when you're provisioning user accounts, right? So I have a couple of questions here. I'm just going to quickly pause the screen. ADP workforce. We've got a lot of requests for ADP workforce integration. I'm afraid I cannot give you any news on that at this point. This is solely dependent on our technical team, but I will, as always, just drop a note to our technical team about this particular request. We've received quite a few in the last couple of sessions as well. So thank you so much for that, Stacy. Thank you, Nima. I will pass this information on to my team. Unfortunately, I'm not in the position to give you an update on that at this point. All right, so what I'll do is right now is I'll just share the links to the release notes if you're using the solution. The version that I'm using right now is the latest one, which is 7.121 that you can see here, which has all the features that I mentioned. So, and more, of course, you can see the updates over here. So I've only picked the ones that I feel is very important here, but there are a lot of things. If you've been using the solution for a lot of for a while now, you can see there have been so many updates that we've introduced this year. Almost every month we roll out a release. So you can please do take a look at this if you have any questions. I did mention about the link to the store. So if you have any questions on the backup and recovery add-on, so I will share that information here right on the chat. All right, so that's the one. It also has information on the editions, what is the license fee, how is the license model works. It's based on domain and technicians. Let's say if the numbers are not exactly what you're looking for, you can always get a request for a quote, get price quote. So there you can define the number of technicians and domains that are available. And if you want to include this particular add-on, and then you will, once you submit your details, you will get a reply from our team on that. And with that, we have reached the end of the session.